Hi, welcome to China Currents. I'm Chris. We have covered a lot of spy stories lately, and just as we thought it's over, on September 11th, the Ministry of State Security revealed another spy case. And for the most interesting part, it's actually an old case happened in May. According to the official announcement, on May 15th, the Suzhou Intermediate People's Court in Jiangsu Province sentenced Liang Chengyun, an American spy, to life imprisonment for espionage. In addition to life sentence, he has been deprived of political rights for life, and his personal property worth $500,000 has been confiscated. Liang Chengyun was referred to as a veteran spy by the Ministry of State Security, and unlike the previous spy cases, which involved stealing confidential information in China, for the past 30 years, Liang was primarily operating in the United States. According to the news release, Liang Chengyun was born in Hong Kong in 1945. In the 1980s, Liang immigrated to the United States and opened a restaurant. During this period, he was approached by CIA agents and recruited him to become an asset. His job was relatively at low risk since he was primarily based in the States. Wait a second, so the United States recruited a Hong Kong immigrant in homeland to spy on China? I mean, it sounds a little bit puzzling. How does this thing even work? The answer is through the overseas Chinese community. Shortly after Liang was recruited, the CIA helped Liang Chengyun secure leadership positions, including president, honorary president, and chairman in multiple overseas Chinese associations through donations. They also worked to craft a false image of him as a patriotic philanthropist. As a prominent figure in the overseas Chinese community, Liang was able to get close to Chinese diplomats and gather intelligence. He was also responsible for surveilling overseas Chinese living and studying in the United States. Liang was decorated for his spying activities before the COVID pandemic. If things went on as usual, there would be no chance for Liang to be arrested by the Chinese authority since he merely operates in the United States. But then there comes COVID. The COVID outbreak made it hard for the CIA to get intelligence from China as its usual intelligence network were all cut out. Liang was then ordered to go to China in person to get intelligence. Since his arrival in late 2020, Liang was involved in a variety of espionage and intelligence activities against China. But this time, he was fully exposed to the Chinese anti-espionage agency. He was then arrested. After a thorough investigation, national security agencies obtained a series of evidence of Liang Chengyun's espionage activities. He was apprehended through legal measures and subsequently handed over to the judicial authorities. A life imprisonment, that is what he got for espionage. This capture marks a significant achievement for China's national security efforts, shedding light on the complex and evolving nature of international espionage activities. Next up, let's turn to the US espionage activities on the internet. On September 14th, Chinese state media disclosed that the United States is utilizing computer viruses to infect internet servers belonging to its allies for the purpose of launching cyber attacks against Chinese education institutions. One of the primary targets of these cyber attacks is Northwestern Polytechnical University, a Chinese university renowned for its advancement in aerospace engineering research. NPU has reportedly been cyber-attacked by a computer virus called Second Date. Investigations conducted by the National Computer Virus Emergency Response Center and Chinese internet security company 360 have successfully detected the attack was committed by the Office of Tailored Access Operations under the Data Reconnaissance Bureau of Information Department of the National Security Agency. According to Du Zhenghua, a senior engineer at CVERC, the NSA has strategically implanted the Second Date virus into a significant number of network servers located in allied countries, including Germany, Japan, South Korea, and India. These compromised servers function as intermediaries, enabling the virus to clandestinely monitor, intercept, and manipulate specific network sessions. The full extent of the impact caused by these viruses on the network security of the countries hosting the compromised servers remains uncertain at present. Next up, on September 10th, Chinese Premier Li Qiang held a talk with US President Joe Biden at a G20 summit in New Delhi. During this dialogue, Li stressed that Chinese development is not a challenge to the US. Biden, in response, said US will not hinder China's economic growth. After the meeting with Lee, President Biden spoke at a subsequent press conference in Vietnam. In his speech, Biden referred to China's economic situation as a crisis, suggested that it has made China less likely to reunite with Taiwan Island by force. Chinese Foreign Ministry downplayed the G20 summit in its regular press briefing, only stating that Lee had a brief talk with Biden. The ministry also criticized the attempt of foreign interference in the Taiwan issue. Yet, beyond official statements, a short clip of Biden's Vietnam address went viral on Chinese internet. In his clip, Biden quoted the famous war comedy film Good Morning Vietnam in his statements, trying to lighten the atmosphere. He also gave a redundant, irrelevant speech about the Third World and Southern Hemisphere until his microphone was cut off by an aide. President Biden seems suffering from Alzheimer's, a Chinese netizen's comment. The G20 summit was actually not the most important diplomatic event happened last week. Next up, on September 13th, Chinese President Xi Jinping and his Venezuelan counterpart Nicolás Maduro held talks in Beijing, announcing the elevation of China-Venezuela relations to an all-weather strategic partnership, further strengthening cooperation in various areas, including energy, finance, trade, investment, mining, agriculture, infrastructure, telecommunication, and the digital economy. This signifies a remarkable milestone in the diplomatic ties between China and Venezuela. Previously, only countries like Pakistan and Belarus had managed to establish comparable relationships with China. Venezuela also reaffirmed its keen interest in becoming a member of the BRICS nations, emphasizing its role as a dependable energy supplier with the world's largest oil reserves. China, as the world's largest manufacturing country, warmly welcomed Venezuela's proactive intention. Next up, the Chinese government has announced new penalties for providers of unlicensed after-school tutoring as part of an ongoing crackdown on the country's massive private education industry. According to new rules published by the Chinese Ministry of Education on September 12th, unlicensed tutoring providers could face fines of up to 100,000 yuan, along with other punishment if caught operating illegally. The strict new measures will take effect in mid-October and are the latest move in China's efforts to reform the education sector. In 2021, China's President Xi Jinping directed a major overhaul of the education system in the country, known as the Double Reduction Policy. The reforms banned tutoring in core academic subjects on weekends and holidays, capped fees, and required all tutoring companies to be licensed. While more than 100,000 providers have been licensed under the new system, many continue to operate illegally. The strict rules are welcomed by most netizens, many of whom sympathize with the hyper-competitive environment in the education sector and hope that regulating private tutoring will give children more free time after school. Next up, let's turn to the Chinese economy. In an announcement made on September 13th, Huawei and Xiaomi have declared that they have reached a global patent cross-licensed agreement covering communication technologies, including 5G. A patent cross-license agreement typically refers to a mutual permission granted by parties holding patents to use each other's patented technologies. In addition to Xiaomi, Huawei has accumulated nearly 200 bilateral licensing agreements, and over 350 companies have obtained Huawei's patent licenses through patent pools. In 2022 alone, 29 companies from regions including China, the United States, Europe, Japan, and South Korea signed bilateral agreements with Huawei and obtained paid licenses for Huawei's patents. According to reports, among the top 10 companies with the most valid global patents families for 5G standards, 5 are Chinese enterprises. Huawei ranks first with a 14.59% share of valid patent families, followed closely by Qualcomm and Samsung with 10.04% and 8.8% respectively. Xiaomi enters the global top 10 for the first time with a 4.1% share of the valid patent families, ranking 10th. Huawei is currently the company with most accumulated authorized patents in China, surpassing 47,000 valid patents. In the United States, Huawei has accumulated over 20,000 authorized patents, and in Europe, the number stands at approximately 15,000 authorized patents. Huawei has ranked first globally in terms of patent cooperation treaty applications for 5 consecutive years. Behind this abundance of patents lies massive investment in research and development. In 2022, Huawei's R&D expenditure reached 161.5 billion Chinese yuan, accounting for 25.1% of its annual revenue. The accumulated R&D expenditure over the past decade has exceeded 977.3 billion Chinese yuan. As of the end of 2022, Huawei's R&D staff exceeded 114,000, accounting for 55.4% of its total workforce. Next up, on September 14th, Beijing authority announced the city's second batch of affordable housing construction plans for 2023. The plan includes 49 new projects totaling 62,000 affordable housing units. The 49 planned new projects include 37 that are scheduled to start construction this year and 12 that are being held in reserve. Of the 37 projects slated to start this year, 29 are rental housing projects involving 16,000 units and 8 are property ownership housing projects involving 26,000 units, all of which are designated as resettlement housing. Last but not least, let's take a look at the Asian Games. On September 8th, the torch relay of the 19th Asian Games started in Hangzhou, China. A total of 2,023 torchbearers from different countries will pass on the torch. Large crowds gather along the routes of the relay to cheer for each torchbearer. In addition to the torch relay, the fabulous light show in Hangzhou City also caught great attention on the Chinese internet. Plenty of videos about lights straight up in the sky went viral on Douyin, the Chinese version of TikTok. Netizens are joking even gods in heaven would have known that Hangzhou is hosting these Asian Games. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for watching this episode of China Currents. If you have any thoughts and comments about our show, please reach us at the email address below. And Chris, looking forward to hearing from you and see you next time.